Good morning, everybody. You're tuned into Crackcore. Thank you for being here with me today, which is Wednesday the 23rd of August 2023. Now, I've spoken a lot just recently about personal power and, self-respect, these kind of things. And yes, here we go again. But there's a meaning for it all. I truly believe there's got to be only good that can come from personal power and self-respect. I mean, what else could come from that? So I hope if anybody out there that's watching this video who has seen any of the other videos that I've done recently, I hope you're starting to feel a little bit more personally powerful. I really do. Because apparently we've got it coming. I saw a little clip of Alex Jones talking about in the holiday industry over there with regards to flying on planes, etc. in America, that apparently there are certain policies being put in place to require staff and patrons wearing face coverings again, masks, midway through September. So you know what, we've only got a couple of weeks to wait to see if that actually transpires. Now, that's not all of it. Apparently by December there's going to be a reintroduction of possible lockdown procedures. There's talk apparently of a new fucking variant in Canada. Now, of course it's Canada. Trudeau was real fucking authoritarian last time, wasn't he? Remember what happened with the truckers? They basically fucking clogged up the streets with a huge convoy, and through that ended up needing funding. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but hopefully you do, because it was fucking amazing what they did. Now, because there was no money for these truckers, they had no way of surviving because they weren't working now, okay? They were going out of their way, spending the time that they would usually have been using to earn money, to support their families, etc., and support themselves, to sustain their own lives. They're used to fight for people, fight for other people, mankind, to set a precedent, to remain as a symbol that people can club together and make a difference. And because they had no income, the people gave back. They started a GoFundMe, like a crowdfunding type of thing, and they had millions of dollars donated so that they could survive. Now, what Trudeau did, and Trudeau's government, what they did was, obviously Trudeau's a fucking hand puppet at this point. Like, you have to know that. He's just a mouthpiece. But the people that he works for, through Trudeau, showed part of their disgusting agenda in its cold light of day when they shut down that crowd-funded income for these brilliant people, for these truckers. even though it's a publicly funded thing, it's just like somebody giving you money to survive. You know, let's just say you're having financial problems. Someone can give you money, okay? That's fine. So it's illegal for the government to take away this crowdsourced money. It was given freely by the public to these people. Now, the government took this money away and filtered it into other channels. Now, that's theft. That is out and out theft. Not to mention, it was a fascist move. It was totalitarian, and ultimately they shouldn't have been allowed to do that and get away with it, because it is highly illegal. You can't do that. And the thing is, you know, that is Canada. You know, that was, apart from Australia, from what I could see in the information that was put out, that was allowed out, Canada and Australia were probably the worst for the fascist dictatorial agenda that they were imposing upon their own public. Now, England was bad. I'm not going to say it wasn't, right? England was fucking bad, let me tell you. It was real bad. America was bad. You know, I'm not saying that fucking China wasn't bad. But at the same time, from what I could see, based on Western civilization and what it is we are used to with regards to our freedoms, let's face it, communism's been in China for such a long time, so for things to become a little bit more totalitarian over there doesn't seem a far stretch, does it? But libertarian countries like the UK, America, Australia, these types of places, especially Canada, it seems a little more out of character and therefore more severe for dictatorship rule to be allowed to happen. You know, this is so far removed from what we're used to. I mean, don't get me wrong, right? I'm not saying in any of these countries we've actually been free, because we haven't been. It'd be silly to say that. We've been part of a modern slavery system for forever. Christ, we get up and go to work. You know, we have to leave our loved ones behind whilst we go and do stuff for people that don't give a fuck about us, that don't value us. You know, see previous videos. Now, it stands to reason then that, considering that in such a libertarian country like Canada, in such a country, such measures were taken, you know, dictatorial measures, and they got away with it. It stands to reason that that's where they might start this thing off again. Because why not, you know? Why the fuck not? The people are used to it by now. They've had their will shattered once. You know, this government has gotten away with a big move, man, by taking people that enjoy their liberty, that supported one another in a time of crisis, by taking those people and telling them, actually, no, we're not going to allow you to do that. And they got away with it. Now, ultimately, for me, it makes a little bit of sense that they would try and start this there. You know, they can't do China again. Britain's probably had enough. I don't know what Australia's saying. I dare say, I don't know, maybe it'll hit Australia as well. Bad. Perhaps before it hits us, I don't know. But considering what Canada got away, well, they got away with through the Canadian government last time, it stands to reason that that's where they would at least try and drill some of this to begin with. It's corrupt as shit. Now, you know, what does this mean for us, the people? Because, I mean, if we're going to be faced with, you know, agenda-driven tactics, fascist tactics, forced mandates, whether it be for masks, injections, we had to get through it once, didn't we? If this is what they're going to try and subject us to again, well, then it kind of puts to rest all of those arguments, doesn't it, to say that it's all just a fucking theory. Which doesn't matter, of course. It doesn't matter whether or not who's right and who's wrong. It really fucking doesn't matter. What matters is, you know, on a base level, what really matters is what happens and how we deal with it. Now, I would say that, considering the fact that we've been through it already once, we should have, you know, a bit of foresight here, and we should be able to take that experience and use it as a way to try and dodge, and if we can't dodge, then fight back against another fucking dictatorial engagement. Because ultimately it's like a fucking war, man. It's like a siege, isn't it? That's basically what they're going to be. That's what we were put through before. It was like a siege, you know, and a siege is meant to diminish your fucking ability to resist. It's supposed to break you down, you know. They play horns and drums and shit so you can't sleep. They stress you out. You've got to use up all your food because you can't leave the city walls to get more. So you better have some grain stored, you know. That's what they did to us, man. They forced us into a position where we had to fucking bend our knees in order to survive. Which means this time around, we should remember what happened, man, you know, and help each other out this time, rather than being piranhas, which is what people turned into last time. Fucking piranhas, man. Remember, like, people were just snatching at things in the supermarket, fighting each other, you know, to get that last bag of pasta. I mean, it was horrible to see. It was like the fucking Black Friday fight over a shitty fucking smart TV that you don't actually need. That's what the human race was lowered to. Fucking animals, man. Now, in fact, animals have probably got more respect. Most of the time, I dare say, animals just take what they need. Fucking subhuman, I would say. But this time around, man, we can get through it. First and foremost, we need to remember what happened before. I say this time around like it's set in stone. I'm just going off the back here of what Alex Jones has said based on his sources. Now, a lot of what he said has come true. You know, remember, this is the guy that broke into Bohemian Grove. And before that, how many people knew about Bohemian Grove? And how many people knew, even if they knew about it, what was going on there? You know, with the cremation of care ceremony and shit like that. He filmed that shit. That takes bollocks, you know. This world, you know, where we seek the truth wouldn't be what it is today without people like him. So I dare say that, you know, whether he's controlled opposition or not, I mean, who the fuck knows these days. However, without people like him, we wouldn't have what we have today with regards to our thirst for the truth. And in saying that, you know, the courage that these people must have to do what they do, I believe it deserves at least one ear. You know, we should at least listen to it a little bit and take heed, because you just never know. And I believe the man has credibility. I do. I don't look at a lot of his stuff, but I do believe he has credibility. And even if he's controlled opposition and he's putting out the planned narrative as like some form of predisposed programming to get us all used to it, you know, desensitization, well then that kind of then tells you that it's going to happen anyway, doesn't it? So then it's still credibility, isn't it? Whether he's a whistleblower or controlled opposition, it gives credibility to what he's saying nonetheless. So with this next one, let's just say for argument's sake, it's the truth and it's planned and it's going to happen. Christ, we all should have fucking known. And I mean, myself, I said it on many occasions, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, of course, that believes that what happened in 2020 to 2021 was just a fucking trial run, bro. It's a trial run. Like, they're trying to figure out how the population will react to certain things, and then they can fine-tune it, so on and so forth. You know, maybe this next one won't be the end game. I mean, at the end of the day, they're already talking about things like microchips and stuff. You know, apparently certain companies are offering £2,000 a month for you to have a microchip, so you can pay for things using a microchip. It's the fucking Bible's mark of the beast, bro. I don't know if you ever read that thing, but I looked it up. I got hold of a Bible, I found the page and I read it, and it's there on the pages, man. It says, you know, you fucking won't be able to buy or sell or trade, whatever, without taking the mark of the beast in the hand or the forehead. Like, you know, and I don't know, man, fucking money in its own right is all part of that horrible system. Now, you know, it's got to be a push towards some form of end game like that. It's got to be. You know, the pieces are all being put in place, and whether this is that end game, whether this next time is the end game or not, it's still a step towards it. If it's not, and if it is, then fucking hell, you know, and we better be ready. The truth of the matter is, we've got to resist it nonetheless. And That's up to us, and it starts with personal power, self-respect. You know, it takes for us to say, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing it again. You know, remember what it was we went through for the reasons why, which have now been proven to be criminal. For want of a better word, it was criminal what happened, because they lied to us and used those lies as their justification for putting you into a fucking a position in your life that was ultimately struggle and hardship. They forced you into getting drugs, experimental drugs, administered into your body, which have put your life at risk. They told us that we couldn't go to the shops, we couldn't buy food, we couldn't sustain our lifestyle unless we were willing to do certain things and toe the line. And all of these things have been proven to not actually work in any way that they were telling us that they would. As a matter of fact, they more than likely made it worse. Whatever it was that people were suffering from, it made it worse. And the fucking destructive aspect on society and how we relate to our fellow human beings is quite possibly the worst outcome of all of these things. You know, take the fucking physical side effects and throw them in the bin in comparison to the psychological effects that it has on fucking society and mankind. Absolutely awful. Irreparable, in my opinion. I don't believe that we're ever going to be able to come back from that unless we truly start to take some responsibility. And responsibility does come from self-worth and self-power. It really does. And as soon as we take responsibility, man, like, we should then start to help each other and come through this as a unified society. Like, at the end of the day, we can't fucking allow this to happen again, man. We can't. We need to remember that if they turn around and say, right, you've got to wear a mask at work, we need to remember, don't we, that actually the masks did fuck all. They did nothing. They make you more sick. You know, we need to remember that the fucking anti-social distancing didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, it fucking set a barrier between you and your friends that caused society to crack open. You know, it created a wound in society, which is more than likely why they fucking did those things that clearly made no difference, just as a way to break apart our ability to stand together, because now society is fucking shattered. Nobody wants to work together. Nobody wants to have any form of unity because we've forgotten how to do so. That fissure in society has been created so that when it comes time to actually really have to stand together, we're unable. And, you know, I'll have to say again, it's all by design, isn't it? The more you look at it, the more you realise it's all by design. Of course it is, you know. That's how these people operate. It's divide and conquer. It's how they work. And we can't let it happen again. We can't. We've got to remember that when our bosses or whoever it is we work for is saying to us, you've got to do this fucking swab up the nose to prove that you're healthy enough to come to work, their policies do not override our fucking human rights. Our human right to personal choice. It doesn't override that. And they cannot fucking terminate your contract because you refuse to do a fucking nasal swab. They cannot do that. As much as they try and put the fucking fear of God into you, they can't, man. Because there's no proof to any of this stuff. They can't, man. And they can't sack you for not wearing a fucking mask. Christ. The government website itself, back the last time, said that you just had to say you were exempt. For any reason whatsoever, you could say you were exempt. And that rendered you, you know, like, exempt from having to wear it, man. Nobody can force you to do these things. It's about free will. And that's how these people operate. They want your free will. That's how this world works. This reality works on free will. This is why their tactics are made so obvious. So that when you're going along with it, it's your free will. Let's face it. Most people wouldn't believe that this shit is so obvious and they're still fucking doing it. So they think, well, it must be the truth because they're not going to fucking be this obvious about it. They're not going to tell a lie so obvious. But let me remind you, that was one of the fucking fascist Nazi fucking German techniques. It's all psychology. That's what they used to do back in the days with their propaganda, man. In the Second World War, the Nazis would say something that was so fucking crazy and inflated. They would just put their agenda out there because they knew that the people wouldn't believe it. But actually it was the truth. This is a psychological war that's happening right now. And if we don't club together this time around, there is literally no going back. If it happens again, we must remember to stand firm. If we don't, it's game over. It is game over. Or at the very least, whatever it is they're trying to bring in regime-wise will happen, and we'll have to fight even harder to get out of it then. And on that note, this is Crack Course signing off. I'm going to wish love and peace and strength to all things everywhere. Peace.